Alright, so I'm going to show how to open up and disassemble this Dell XPS 13 9360. So first, what you're going to want, you'll need a T5, a PH0, and I believe a PH1. If other screwdrivers are needed, I'll mention them, but those are the three main ones that you'll most likely need. So first, what you want to do is remove all the screws. So around the outside, there are T5 screws. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Once you remove those, you want to lift up this cover and remove the PH0 screw under here. So there's one screw there. All right. Once you remove those screws, what you can do, open the screen slightly so you have it up at an angle. And then in this gap here between the keyboard, the palm rest, and the metal cover, you want to get your pry tool or fingernails in there. Okay, and then you kind of pull on it. This cover's usually pretty difficult to remove. You might have to do it from the other way, so that way you can pull on the trackpad side. So just go like that. All right. Let's see if I can, hopefully I can keep it in view. So just go along the edge. It will be pretty tough to do. All right. Let's see here. Might have to go from the side. Okay, there we go. It's coming out. Okay, so I'm kind of pulling on this side here while I kind of run my fingernails along the edge here. And then be careful for the little holes here because those are microphones. So you don't want to damage the microphones. Try and skip those while you're prying it out, okay? So just keep going. All right, we'll turn this around. Hopefully you can clip it back down. Okay. Again, be careful for those little holes. Those are microphones. All right, just go like that. So now you can see the cover is coming up. All right, so here you can see there's, I don't know if you can see them, but there's little clips that hold the cover in place. Once you start getting the cover up, it should be a bit easier to come out. So just like that. All right, so we got the cover off. It is a little dusty. I'll clean it out later. The battery here seems a little bulged, so it might be going bad, but we're gonna remove it. Okay, let's see what we need. So we will need the PH1 screwdriver. Okay, so not the PH0. Make sure to switch to the PH1. We're gonna remove the CMOS battery and the regular battery. Okay, so the regular battery, there's screws holding it in place, so just remove the screws. There's one here. All right, let's see if I'm missing anything. There's another tiny screw here. You will have to use the PH0 for that. So the little silver screw, you have to use the PH0 screwdriver. Okay, just keep that in mind. All right, lift out the screw. Okay, and while you work on computers, you want to also make sure that you're grounded. I have my knee against my metal desk, so keep that in mind. All right, so then you want to remove the two screws down here on the bottom of the battery. Okay. All right, then you got to also peel up the speakers unless you're going to lift the speakers with it. You can disconnect the speakers first. So if you want to disconnect the speakers, let me see if I can show a close up. So the speaker cable here, to remove that, you just kind of pinch it with your fingernails. That's the easiest way. And you kind of just wiggle it, okay? Just like this. Keep wiggling it, and it will pop out just like that, okay? All right, then you just move that aside. Again, we're gonna remove the speakers with the battery, just so that way we can lift the whole thing out without undoing the adhesive. If it is caught on something, then we might have to take out the adhesive, but for now I'm gonna try and keep it all attached as one piece. So there's two screws on each speaker. You will have to remove the adhesive from up here because that's holding onto the motherboard. So take out the speakers. Alright, just like that, and then peel up the adhesive there. Okay, just like that. Peel up that adhesive there. So you got these two middle adhesive strips pulled up. Then you can kind of lift this. I lift this plastic up here in the middle, and then you can also lift out these speakers. Okay. This speaker wire, as you can see, it goes underneath the battery. Make sure you put it back the same way. Then you got this speaker here. Lift that out as well. And then, of course, you have to disconnect the battery connector. So I'm moving the battery so I can get it out of the way. The battery connector is a little tough to remove, just because, let's see if I can show this, just because there's not much of a thing to grab. I usually will use my fingernail and try and pull on the lip, but a lot of times these ones, it's really hard to do. If you can grab it like that, then that's good. But if you can't, what you want to do is I get one hand underneath, as you can see my fingers under there, and then I use my other one on top and kind of just pull and wiggle just like this, and the battery will come out. Okay, you want to be careful because these cables are kind of fragile, so yeah, you don't want to just yank on it really hard. Alright, so we got the battery out. We'll set that aside. This one was having boot issues, so what we're going to try and do is we're going to remove the CMOS battery, and then we're going to short the CMOS battery connectors and also drain the power from the computer. So once you got the battery and the CMOS battery disconnected, I just disconnected it right there. Alright, you want to press and hold the power button for about 15 seconds. Alright. When you open the bottom panel, because a lot of the screws are missing, you want to open it slowly and gently. Don't quickly open it because you can break the hinges. Alright. So once you've held the power button down for a few seconds, about 15 seconds or so, then what I do is I press and hold the power button, and then the pins here, I don't know if I can show, let's see here, can I zoom in? Oops, sorry. So the pins for the CMOS battery here, you just want to short those out. So you use something metal, just touch the two together, okay, just like that. And while you're pressing and holding the power button, you can let go, press and hold it again. I don't know if this will fix it, but we're going to try. Sometimes resetting the BIOS and the CMOS and the battery connections will help. The other thing is there's lots of dust in here, so I'm going to clean that up because sometimes that can cause like a temporary short, and that can be what's preventing the computer from turning on. So I just use a, old toothbrush. Of course, clean it. Don't use like a nasty old toothbrush. But yeah, then you just clean this off. All right, just like that. Make sure there's no dust on it. Again, you want to make sure that you're grounded to the earth, so touch something metal so you don't short anything out or cause like static. Shorting is more caused by like metal or something conductive, like if you touch pins together and you accidentally cause electricity to go where it shouldn't, that's what's called shorting. Okay, so now that we got that, let's see here. So this is the battery connector. You got the keyboard connector. This looks like keyboard connector. Oh yeah, okay. So the keyboard connector goes here, and it's interesting. They actually connect the keyboard connector to the logic board or motherboard with a smaller cable. So to remove that, you just flip up. Oh, I should probably zoom in for that. But you basically flip up this little black plastic tab. So as you can see, I can flip it down, flip it back up. Just be careful with it, okay? And then after you flip that up, you can lift the cable and you can kind of wiggle and pull it out, okay? Just like this. Be gentle, these cables are fragile, okay? So just like that, grab it and then pull it out, okay? So that's how you do that. And then to put it back, you just, of course, make sure the latch is up, slide it back in, make sure it's pushed in all the way, and then put the latch back down. Right, so I'm not going to show how to remove all those cables because they're basically the same, but here's the touchpad cable, same thing. You got this extra daughter board cable here. So it says DB side, that means daughter board, so that goes to the small board, and then MB side means motherboard, that goes to the motherboard. But that comes out all the same as all the other connectors. And the daughter board is for these USB USB 3.0 ports, and the SD card slot. So if something goes wrong with that, you can replace this board. Then you got this small cable. I believe that's for the fan. Let me see if I can confirm. No, the fan connector is actually this one. This small connector. Oh, okay, that goes into the screen connector. So this is the LCD cable connector, and then you got this small cable here. This is for like the webcam and microphone in the screen usually. But yeah. Okay, the fan is removable, but it is trapped underneath this side of the motherboard. I'm not going to take the whole motherboard out. This kind of connector is basically the same as the other ones. You kind of just wiggle while you pull it. I use my fingernails in the gap, and I just keep wiggling it just like this, and keep wiggling and keep wiggling and keep wiggling. It might take some time. This kind of connector is a little stubborn. You might have to use a little more force, but there you go. Pops out just like that. I only see 2 pins on that, so I think that's a microphone cable, but yeah, it could be wrong. All right, then you got the LCD cable, or LVDS connector that people call it. There's 2 screws holding this in place, so you remove those 2 screws if you need to disconnect it. All right, and this is usually like a pop-up type, so you can move this metal bracket out of the way. Be careful with it not to get it on the board and damage something. All right, and then to disconnect these cables, what I do, let me see if I can show this. So what I do to disconnect this cable, you kind of pull on it, and then while you're pulling on it, I just pry up the little edge here, just like this, okay? So that's how I pull these connectors out. If you pull straight up, a lot of times it won't come out very easily. There's some dirt and stuff under here, so I am gonna clean that. Maybe that's causing an issue. Okay. And then once you do that, you just put the connector back on top, make sure it's lined up properly, and then push it down, okay? Just like that. All right, once you got that all in place, put the little cover back on. You can put the screws back in, okay? So on this model, it looks like the RAM isn't replaceable. I doubt you can change it because the bottom is very thin. There's not really much gap underneath. So I don't think you can change that cable. But yeah, you got the fan connector here. I mean, you can't change the RAM. All right, the CPU is also soldered to the board. You got the SSD. This is, let's see, does it say here? Okay, so it is a PCIe NVMe. So this is a M.2 PCIe NVMe SSD. To remove that, you just use the one screw, take out the one screw. It'll pop up like this, okay? And then you kind of just pull it out. So there's also some weird debris under there, it looks like. So I'm going to clean that out as well. So hopefully that will fix the issue. The light was coming on and then it was just turning off. It wouldn't stay on. Okay, so then you just put the SSD back in at an angle like that, and make sure you push it all the way in, and then after that you just push this down and put the screw back in place. Okay, so the wireless card is basically the same thing. So here's the wireless card, basically the same thing. There's the one screw, the only difference is there's metal brackets on top. Okay, so take that screw out, set it aside. You don't want to mix up the screws because they are all different sizes and lengths. Keep that in mind. Oh, I forgot to mention the cable. Let's see if I can show the cable down here. That's for, as you can see, it connects to this little board as well. That's for the light on the front as well as 2 microphones. Okay, anyways, back to the wireless card. So you got the wireless card here. To remove the antennas, it's going to be kind of a pain because you have these things in the way, but basically you go from the tail and you pull it up. So usually what I like to do is I lift up by the tail and then I push down on the card while it's popped up, and that will help you kind of pop the connector out. So just like that, okay? And let me see if I can show a close-up on how to reconnect it. Okay, so to reconnect the wireless card, you just line it back up. All right, and the best way, you have to make sure this is perfectly aligned before you press it down or you can damage it. The way I find that out is I move my fingernail over the top. So as you can see, when I kind of rub on it, the connector doesn't move anywhere, and that's how you know it's lined up properly. Then you just push it down, okay? All right, so now we just put the little metal bracket back on. Oops, sorry. Where's this? Okay, so now we just put the little metal bracket on. Keep the screw in place. Put the metal bracket there. Hold it down. All right. Tighten the screw up. Okay. Then you also have the charging port. Let's see if I can show this. So the charging port is here. There's one screw holding this in place. You take this screw out and you can lift it up. If this is like the other one that I've recently just worked on, hopefully it's not, but they seem to like to thread the charging port underneath the motherboard. So I think this is the same. There's this cable here. Yeah, so they thread this cable underneath the motherboard. You don't have to completely remove the motherboard to take out the DC jack. It'll just be a little challenging. But if you need to take out the DC jack, there's some screws holding this in place. I think there might be a screw underneath here too. Oh, actually, it's underneath the DC jack. So there's a screw here, and then you can remove the screw here as well. Once you remove those 3 screws, you can use the USB port to kind of lift the board up, and then you can kind of pull the DC jack cable over the screw mount hole here. So basically the wire goes around, it goes underneath this or behind this screw mount area, and then it curves back out and then comes out like this. So keep that in mind. If you need to change the charge port, it will be kind of a pain. You can try and like leave the charge port on top, but then you still have to remove this one. Yeah. Okay, so the charge port, it just disconnects like the other cables. You just keep wiggling it, pulling on it and wiggling it, and it will eventually come out. Okay, so let's put this back on. Then you got one connector here. Actually, you got 2 connectors here. So there's a small connector here and then another one here. So all of these are for like sensors and stuff in the front of the screen. So I think this has like the webcam somewhere. I don't see it. Where's the camera? Oh, so it's like in the bottom corners. So yeah, so there's like the camera and other sensors like light sensors and things, and then I think it's also touchscreen, and that's what all these little cables and stuff do. I don't know which one is for what specifically, but just know that these 2 cables go into the screen, so if you do mess with the screen, you will have to take that out. Okay, so that's pretty much all there is to this machine. I'm gonna put everything back together and see, hopefully, that the computer will turn back on. So one thing you can do is you can plug back in. Oops, sorry, I forgot to zoom back out. So one thing you can do, you can plug back in the CMOS or the BIOS battery, and then you can leave the battery and speakers disconnected, and then you can just plug the laptop in. So let's see if it will turn on with this. So I'm going to plug the computer in and turn it on. If this doesn't work, then it's most likely a motherboard or logic board issue, and you'd have to basically replace the main board for that. So that will usually be a pretty pricey repair. Okay, so we're just plugging in the power. So you'll see the front light came on. All right, then we will try and power it on. The power light is on, but it doesn't look like anything's happening. It just went back off. So the power light on. Sometimes after you reset the BIOS, it takes a while to start up. So if it doesn't start up the first time, just give it a little bit. But if it still doesn't start up, then most likely it's completely dead. So it looks like it's not turning on at all. Right now the power button's doing nothing. Let's hold the power button down. I'm gonna blow out all the connectors just in case. The light is flashing orange, so that means it is detecting like a battery issue or power issue. Okay, so let's clean this all out. Sometimes dust in the ports can cause issues too, but I'm starting to think this is a dead logic board. The customer told me that this problem happened when they plugged in an external monitor, so yeah, that kind of sucks. But let's see, push the button, still nothing. The light is on for the power button, but nothing's happening. So most likely this motherboard or logic board is toast. Yeah, nothing happened. So I guess that's all there is to this. They'll most likely need a motherboard or logic board replacement or repair. But yeah, looks like that's all I'm going to be able to do with this for now. So I'm going to put the speakers and everything back in. All right, so just make sure the wire again for this side is underneath. All right, guide the wire for the battery back in. Just like that. Push it in, make sure it's plugged in all the way. Don't forget to plug in the speakers. All right, then we can put the speakers back in place. Put the battery back in place. All right, and that's all there is to this model. So hopefully this video helped you guys. If it did, remember to like and subscribe so that others can find my videos. It'll also help me. And thank you for watching. To put the cover back on, I guess I'll show the rest. But basically you just put in all the screws for everything, like the battery and the speakers. And then the bottom cover, you basically just snap it down on top. You just lay it down and push it in place. But I'll just put that in the video. The screws, you don't need to see me put all the rest of the bottom screws on. But yeah, so I'll just show the cover part just in case some people sometimes have problems putting the cover on. Okay. So make sure put back all the screws. Just like that. Alright, don't forget to switch to the PH0 screwdriver when you go to put back the small silver screw. Okay, so now that you got all the screws in, I should actually clean this out real quick, so let me brush that off. Okay, so just get all the dust off from the outside. Same thing with the fan. Okay, so now that you got all the dust out, just put the cover back on. I like to start with the bottom side first. Oops. Alright, then you just lay it down, and then just snap it all back in place. Okay, so that's all there is to this. Hopefully this video helped you. Again, if it did, please like and subscribe. It'll help others. It'll also help me. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.